Hey, what is going on, Frag Fam? I hope you guys are doing well today. Elliot here, and welcome back to The Fragrance Well. For today's video, I'm going to have a little bit of fun. I am going to bet that the fragrances I have featured in today's video will never be discontinued. Obviously, I can't see into the future. There's no guarantee of anything never being discontinued, but we've got fragrances that are still available on the fragrance marketplace that have been on the marketplace for as long as my parents have been alive. So there is something to be said about a fragrance just kind of sticking it out, just always being available. It doesn't matter if it's in the spotlight anymore. If you can buy it, it's still a part of the fragrance marketplace. All of these fragrances I'm going to talk about today are modern day releases. Let me see. I'm just kind of looking over. Nothing here from my knowledge. Nothing here has been created before 2000. So all of these are going to be considered modern day creations, and I'm willing to bet that they are going to be around when I am walking around with a cane like an old man. All right, so I've got 10 of them, so let's get right into it. Before we do, as always, please remember to like the video, subscribe to the channel if you do like the content. Hit that bell icon also so you can be notified when I upload new videos. Let's get into it. All right, guys, the first one is going to be coming from Dior. This is going to be Sauvage. Dior Sauvage. This is particularly the Eau de Parfum, but I'm going to go ahead and just say the Sauvage line in general is what I'm talking about. And I mean the EDT, the Eau de Parfum, and the Parfum. If you want to include Sauvage Elixir on here, you can. The new Eau Forte, we'll see how that one goes. I'm going to reserve my thoughts on that one because I don't really want to get into that in this video. But yeah, the Sauvage DNA, you guys, I'm sure, know it very well. Basically, the modern day shower gel masculine fragrance with freshness, pepperiness, and a little bit of sweetness and some spice. So it shouldn't really be that obvious why I would say Sauvage is probably going to be around for a long time. It is by far the best-selling fragrance of the modern era, and there's no sign of that really slowing down right now. And if you consider what would be the, at least it's considered by some to be the best-selling fragrance of all time, Acqua di Gio, which I could have put on this list, but I don't have the original Acqua di Gio. I got Profumo, which actually is discontinued, so that would be an oxymoron. But that fragrance, even though it is no longer at the top in terms of sales, it still sells plenty of bottles, and there is no way, I'm talking about the original EDT, is going away anytime soon. Why? Because of the same thing effect that Sauvage has. There are guys that are what I would just say are normies, and that's not a diss. They're just not a part of the fragrance community. They're gonna buy this stuff up for as long as it is available. People love this DNA. It works for them. If it gives them success, they're gonna keep wearing it. That's certainly the case with a fragrance like Acqua di Gio, as well as some of those older scents that older guys just keep buying up. So that's why I don't think Sauvage is going to wear anytime soon. And as long as it's selling the way it's selling right now, it's basically could carry the entire Dior fragrance department on its own right now with how much sales it's doing. I'm guessing, I don't know that for sure, but I would be willing to bet Sauvage could carry the entire fragrance department on its own right now. It's gonna keep being available from the brand. So once again, from Dior, this is Sauvage, particularly Eau de Parfum right here. All right, moving on. Next one's coming from Tom Ford, and it's gonna be Oud Wood. Tom Ford Oud Wood. So this one, you guys, I'm sure know it well. It's a very westernized, kind of cleaner oud, mixing with spices and slight ambery notes, a little bit of sweetness, really just good evening wear DNA, something that every guy can rock in my opinion. And you know, the success of Tom Ford's Oud Wood cannot be understated as far as I am concerned. It's kind of the same thing for Tom Ford that Sauvage is. It's just one of those darling fragrances that sells so many bottles out of the entire lineup that it kind of carries a lot of the fragrance department. And as we all know, Tom Ford has introduced a lot of fragrances and discontinued a lot of fragrances. Oud Wood, I'm pretty sure, has never even come into the conversation of being discontinued. So it's going to be available for a very, very long time, just like the House of Tom Ford is going to be available. Yes, the price is outrageous. It's completely out of control, but you know what? People still buy Tom Ford fragrances, a lot of it at full retail. So the brand, I don't think is going anywhere. And frankly, I don't want it to. I do think Tom Ford makes awesome fragrances, and Oud Wood is going to be one of those ones that's going to stick around for the test of time. Matter of fact, it's already been around. Is it coming up on 20 years? So almost 20 years of this fragrance even being out, because I think it came out in 07. So yeah, Oud Wood, not going anywhere. I highly doubt it's going to get discontinued. Once again, from Tom Ford. This is Oud Wood. All right, guys, next one's gonna be coming from Chanel, and this is gonna be, you guessed it, Bleu de Chanel. Chanel's Bleu de Chanel, which is basically what Sauvage is to Dior, Bleu de Chanel is to Chanel in terms of a release that kind of reaches as many people as possible and is beloved by those in the community and outside of it. And personally, I like Bleu de Chanel a lot more than Sauvage, but that's irrelevant. This is the Parfum version, obviously, but again, similar to Sauvage, I'm talking about the EDT, EDP, and Parfum, which is all we have from this right now. We'll see if an elixir comes out. I kind of hope they don't. At this point, the elixir thing has been overdone. All that being said, I'm sure you guys know it's that fresh citrus, kind of in a grapefruit kind of realm, grapefruit mandarin kind of realm, very clean wood, cedar, sandalwood, and some aromatic notes to round it all out. While Bleu de Chanel has probably not seen the earth-shattering numbers that Sauvage has, it's always right up there in like the number 2/number 3 spot in terms of modern day sales numbers. So Bleu de Chanel is same thing. It's just not gonna go anywhere anytime soon. And it's kind of got that same effect where guys are probably gonna keep wearing this as long as it is serving whatever they want in terms of their fragrance choice. And as long as it's doing very well in sales, the company is not gonna stop making it unless something causes them to basically be unable to make it, which is highly unlikely with these types of scents in my opinion. So get ready for it when we're all kind of old and gray. If we're not already at that point right now, you're gonna see Bleu de Chanel still on those fragrance counter shelves. So once again, from Chanel, this is Bleu de Chanel, and this is particularly the Parfum. All right, guys, next one's coming from Creed, and this also shouldn't be a surprise. It's gonna be Aventus. Creed Aventus. And you know, the cool thing about Creed is they've got other fragrances that many would say are timeless classics and are fragrances that are probably not gonna go anywhere anytime soon. In particular, I'm thinking of Creed Irish Tweed. I did think about putting that one on here, but because it's already kind of stood that test of time, I wouldn't really be guessing that it's a fragrance that may never get discontinued. That's been around since, what was it, 85 or something like that, 1985. That's 4 years before I was even born. But Aventus is actually a modern day scent, came about after the year 2000. So we know the Aventus DNA. If you're in Fragcom, you still haven't discovered the Aventus DNA in some shape or fashion, you must be really, really, really new here. But yeah, the pineapple, the bergamot, the smoky woody facet coming by way of birch, the slight ambery facets kind of hiding there in the background. And yeah, the Aventus DNA is just one of those things that I just don't see going away anytime soon. Particularly for the reason that I kind of forgot to mention with stuff like Sauvage and Bleu de Chanel. If you've happened to have never gotten your nose on the stuff, and let's just say you're not in Fragcom, so you're not really influenced by anything, people still get their minds blown by this fragrance. And I see it every time I go to visit the Creed counter in Bloomingdale's, because the Creed representative is a friend of mine, so I go and see her every now and then. We talk for like an hour without even talking about fragrances, but somebody inherently comes up and they're grabbing Aventus, whether they've heard of it or not. You know, a lot of them don't want to buy it because they're just coming in, spraying themselves with it and then walking off. I'm like, bro, that's cheating again. That's cheating the system, man. But people still buy bottles of this, even at its ridiculously overpriced price point. So that means the fragrance is still doing well for Creed, and it's not going to go anywhere if it is. And this one in particular is a special case because I think this one is a testament to being resilient, even though they've had to make a number of changes over the years. Obviously, this version of Aventus, which is maybe the 2021 batches, whatever it is, doesn't smell like the original, as many people have stated, and then it went through a few variations in between that. This version here is probably going to be the most consistent because it's the mass-produced version. Because when you're making something to the level of what you need for an Aventus, there may be some things you're just unable to do from a sourcing standpoint in order to produce enough juice to sell it at the level that this sells, which is part of the reason why sometimes fragrances from houses like Creed go through certain changes, and you know, people have problems with that. But I'm sorry to tell you that it's just going to be a part of the fragrance business. When you're mass producing a scent, there are certain things you are going to have to do to be able to make enough juice. Whether you like it or not, that's kind of irrelevant. I'm not taking a stance on it. I'm just stating simple business facts. But yeah, with that being said, the fact that they've been able to do that and the fragrance still sells, it's still relevant to the fragrance marketplace, I don't see Aventus going anywhere anytime soon. Plus, it's the most influential, most cloned fragrance as far as we can tell or guess. So once again from Creed, this is Aventus. All right, next one's gonna be coming from Parfums de Marly, and it's going to be Layton. Parfums de Marly, Layton. And look, really the reason I'm choosing this one as well is similar reasons from the fragrances I just listed. It's the darling fragrance for the brand. And what I mean by that is it's kind of their breakout scent that does crazy well in sales compared to some of their other offerings, to the point where they can keep some of those offerings on the shelf that may not do as well overall because this fragrance is carrying all of them. Now, do I have Parfums de Marly's numbers? No, I don't, but we know that this is their most popular fragrance, so that's not even a debate. Just in case you're unfamiliar with the DNA, it's basically kind of a fresh, creamy apple kind of smell. Does have this slight menthol kind of thing going on. Some people don't like that, and I can understand it. Doesn't really bother me. There's also spice by way of kind of a cinnamon-like profile. It's very, not very sweet, but it has a good amount of sweetness as well. It's basically combining freshness, spiciness, and sweetness to come together to make that super enjoyable type of fragrance that a lot of people like, especially with more modern offerings. And there's just simply no denying the success of a Layton to Parfums de Marly. So therefore, as long as they are able to make this, I think it's going to be available on the shelves. And the fact of the matter is there are people that absolutely love this scent. With fame and visibility brings about haters. So yes, there are those that think this is overrated. I certainly don't think it's their best fragrance, but I don't dislike it. But that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just a testament to how much visibility the fragrance has, which is also a reason you could say that it might not get discontinued, because it just has the attention to kind of keep it going and people still buy the stuff and love the fragrance. So once again, from Parfums de Marly, this is Layton. All right, guys, next one's going to be coming from Marc-Antoine Barras, and this is Ganymede. Marc-Antoine Barras, Ganymede. I would certainly be willing to bet that this is also kind of the darling fragrance from this relatively newer brand. And also, this is the latest fragrance release, latest fragrance creation, should I say, out of all the fragrances I am featuring in today's video. And there's no denying the success that Ganymede has had. It has brought a new style of fragrance, or a new identity of fragrance, to the fragrance world that many people have taken notice to, have created their own versions from. There's also just cheaper versions of it, if you will. I love the stuff. It's this mineralic, spicy, woody fragrance. So when I say mineralic, kind of just has this ethereal mineral quality to it, kind of watery in a way. It also has quite a bit of saffron, so you're getting a spicy, slightly leathery element from that. Really dry and woody, as well as having kind of a slight orange. Sometimes I get like this kind of caramelized sugary smell to it. So yeah, stuff kind of took the fragrance world by storm for it just being so unique, but also just being something that a lot of people really gravitated towards. There's cheaper versions in this by way of Essential Parfums Bois Imperial, which they just created an Extrait version of Bois Imperial, and there's an Extrait version of this, which actually I don't think got as much traction as the original did. And honestly, I don't know how that new Bois Imperial Extrait is doing. It's too new. It literally just got released like a month ago or something like that. But point being is, this is a scent DNA that is having influence in the fragrance marketplace overall. People are creating their own spin-offs of this. Obviously, there's going to be some clones coming out about it, but I think this fragrance here is going to stand the test of time as long as the house is relevant. Again, I'm really kind of sticking my arm out there on this one because it's such a new release. It's only been out for a few years. It's kind of hard to say a fragrance is never going to get discontinued after only a few years, because you just don't know. But I'm willing to say that based off of the impact that this fragrance has had on the fragrance business overall. So once again, from Marc-Antoine Barras, this is Ganymede. All right, guys, next one's going to be coming from Emporio Armani. This is Stronger With You. Well, this is absolutely, obviously, Stronger With You, absolutely. But I am talking about the Stronger With You line overall. Let me know if there have been any like flankers to Stronger With You that have been discontinued. I actually don't have a clue. But I'd be willing to bet that the original is always going to stick around, because anytime you have a fragrance line, if you will, that spawns just countless flankers, one thing always kind of seems to remain true, and that's the original is always available. Some of the flankers come and go, but the original sticks around. Le Male is another example. I actually did not include Le Male on this list, but I could have, but that's just to kind of illustrate the point. But anyway, I like Stronger With You, absolutely. based off the Stronger With Yous I've gotten my nose on so far, which isn't many of them. I like this one the most, so that's the only reason I have this bottle and am featuring it. This one here features that kind of candied roasted chestnut kind of smell, so it's a little bit gourmand, has vanillic notes, good amount of patchouli in this that kind of comes out once the fragrance settles a little bit, giving it a pretty good chocolatey feel to my nose. And then there's also some citruses and a little bit of lavender in this too to kind of freshen it up a bit. But the Stronger With You DNA is out there. It influenced basically the entire designer market as far as I'm concerned. I mentioned in a previous video that the Stronger With You fragrances are now starting to make their way back onto American shelves, because someone said they actually used to be. I don't know if that's true or not. I wasn't into fragrances like that at that time. If they were, all I can say is they are on the shelves now, and we'll probably start to see more of the flankers be available here in the States as well, so you don't necessarily have to go the sampling route or the discounter route just to get your nose on them. You're probably still gonna buy them from there though. But point being, this is another fragrance line that has been incredibly influential to the overall fragrance business, more so on the designer side, but that's neither here nor there. The point is, it has been influential, and I'm pretty sure it's done very well in sales for the brand. So they're gonna keep pumping out flankers of this, and that original is just gonna stick around because it's always the one that kind of started it all. And I'm pretty sure you got your old school lovers of that original DNA, so they just keep buying it. So once again, from Emporio Armani, this is Stronger With You, absolutely in particular. All right, guys, next one is going to be coming from Oud Wood, and this is Reflection Man. Oud Wood Reflection Man. Now, in terms of that kind of darling fragrance I've been talking about with most of these brands, I don't know if Reflection is necessarily that, because Oud Wood has a lot of like really, really good offerings that you could say are X factors in terms of popularity for the brand. But we do know Reflection is one of their most popular ones. But I actually don't know if this one does like the best in sales overall. But I wouldn't be surprised if it does. But I'm actually willing to bet that right now in the modern day and age, Guidance is the one that does the best in sales. But anyway, you guys know this scent DNA, I'm sure. It is a white floral fragrance using a little bit of neroli. That's kind of the main fragrance note that you have here, but it's very well balanced because neroli can be overpowering, and I think because it's not in this scent, it's one of the special things about it. It does have a little bit of a bitter orange kind of smell. I think there's like bitter orange leaf in here as well. It's woody as well. It's got a little bit of sweetness. It is such a pleasant fragrance and still kind of stands on its own from a DNA standpoint compared to most of the other offerings from Oud Wood. As I mentioned before, I don't really know how this does in sales overall, but one thing I can say is that the fragrance community is probably going to keep this fragrance going, if nothing else, because we know how popular this is in FragCom. So once again, from Oud Wood, this one here is Reflection Man, never getting discontinued. All right, guys, let's circle back to a couple of fragrances that we can say with a little bit more definitiveness probably won't get discontinued. For Mason Francis Kurkdjian, this is Baccarat Rouge 540. This is Extrait in particular. Baccarat Rouge 540. And I would say that the EDP and the Extrait equally kind of share the same purpose, if you will, in terms of being popular fragrances from this brand. So this one also should not be a surprise. I think from a volume standpoint, in terms of bottles sold, this one actually does better than Aventus. I don't know if it does better in terms of a number value, because Aventus pound for pound I think costs more. Yeah, Baccarat Rouge shouldn't be surprised, right? This is probably the second most influential fragrance DNA from the niche world that has influenced countless clones, countless inspired by, well, maybe not countless inspired by, it's probably more clones than inspired by. I think Aventus kind of takes the cake on that one. But yeah, you know this stuff. It's the kind of unique, ethereal fragrance DNA that can kind of be kind of hard to explain at first, but it's saffron, it's jasmine. The Extrait in particular has a very nice creamy, slightly smoky, bitter almond note in there. It has the sweetness, it has the overall likability facet, it has this kind of intoxicating quality to it, and compared to, I mean, a lot of the fragrances I've talked about on this list, this is another one that if you're kind of out in the public, good chance you might come across somebody wearing something that smells somewhat like a Baccarat Rouge scent DNA. I already know that this is absolutely the darling of Mason Francis Kurkdjian, even though they probably do well in sales with a number of their fragrances. I'm sure it's not coming close to what Baccarat is, so as long as they're able to keep making it, they're gonna keep making it. So once again, from Mason Francis Kurkdjian, this is Baccarat Rouge 540. This is the Extrait in particular. All right, and to close it out, coming from Guerlain, it's going to be L'Homme Ideal. This is the Eau de Parfum. L'Homme Ideal from Guerlain. And yeah, I'm definitely saying the line overall as well. I'm talking about the EDT in particular. I would put the EDP in that category. The extreme version, I would say so. Yeah, I think it has its fans, and as well as some of the other offshoot flankers. I know Cool, is it Cool? I think is what it's called, got discontinued, but apparently the new Platine is like a repackaging of that. I haven't actually smelled either one of those, so I can't speak to that, but in general, I don't think the L'Homme Ideal line is going anywhere. Now, I can tell you right now, the EDP is by far my favorite that I've gotten my nose on so far. I got the Extreme. I'm not that crazy about it. I actually like the EDT more than the Extreme, but I like this one the most. It definitely kind of focuses on that almond as a kind of a central note theme for most of the fragrances from the line. I like the somewhat fruity, somewhat kind of cherry / plum characteristic that this fragrance has. I don't know if it actually has either one of those in this fragrance, but I like that quality in here. I love the woody nature of it. I love the leather that really kind of comes out of hiding with this particular iteration of the L'Homme Ideal DNA. And of course, a really nice balanced sweetness that is not overbearing, because that's not something I'm really much of a fan of, but that's kind of neither here nor there. The L'Homme Ideal DNA is a huge success in terms of the fragrance community, and obviously it does pretty well in sales too, because they also keep releasing flankers for it. Now, as I stated before, with these big fragrance lines that have a lot of flankers, sometimes the flankers come and go, but it always seems like many of the original iterations seem to just stick it out. So that is why I think the L'Homme Ideal DNA is no different than the rest of these I've talked about. It's going to be here for the test of time. So once again, from Guerlain, this is L'Homme Ideal. This is the Eau de Parfum in particular. Alright guys, that is going to do it for this video. Let me know down in the comments below if you agree with my choices in terms of what's never going to be discontinued. And also, there's other fragrances I easily could have put on this video. Let me know down in the comments what some other fragrances you think will never be discontinued. Would love to see what you guys have to say. Thanks again for watching all the way into the end. I really do appreciate all of you. Please remember to be well and smell well. And I'll see you in the next episode of The Fragrance Well. Have a good one.